Today, we're diving into something a little different. If you're familiar with Jane Loevinger's 9 levels of ego development, you know how it charts the journey of our sense of self from these simple, self-protective instincts to a more integrated, complex understanding of who we are. But have you ever wondered what happens beyond that? What's next? Or how that development plays into our spiritual evolution? Well, that's where Dr. William Tiller's model comes in. So today I'm introducing you to his 3 branches of consciousness, which explore how our journey doesn't just evolve within us, but it also extends beyond us, shaping how we interact with the world and all the energies around us. We'll compare this to Loevinger's ego development to see how these concepts, how these blueprints fit together. Let's start with a question. You might be familiar with the transition from Loevinger's conformist stage to the more advanced autonomous or even integrated levels. But what comes after we've reached the stage of ego development? Dr. Tiller's model suggests it's not the end, it's actually the beginning of a much larger process. Loevinger showed us how we grow from seeking approval and safety to becoming independent, self-aware, and finally, integrated beings. Dr. Tiller expands on this by mapping out these 3 branches that then guide our consciousness as it grows. The ascending branch, the surrender branch, and the descending branch. So let's see how these branches connect with the levels you're already familiar with. So do you think you've reached the peak of self-awareness? Well, Dr. Tiller's model might show you there's actually another layer to uncover. So let's start with the ascending branch. According to Dr. Tiller, this is where most of our conscious development begins. Think of it as a stage where we focus on building what he called the infrastructure of the self. We're learning, we're mastering skills, we're finding our success in the material world, just like Loevinger's self-protection and conformist stages. At these levels, our ego is busy. We're figuring out how to survive. How do we fit in? How do we get ahead? Sound familiar? It's because this phase does align closely with what Loevinger describes in the early ego stages. It's all about establishing this foundation, whether that's gaining knowledge, building your career, or finding your place in society. But it's just the beginning. If you think growth stops at success and self-sufficiency, think again. The journey takes a surprising turn, and this is where things get interesting. As you move through Loevinger's conscientious stage, there's a shift. You begin to reflect on your actions, what your values are, how you impact others. You're no longer just chasing success for yourself. You're starting to see that bigger picture. And Dr. Tiller's equivalent here is the surrender branch. Now, this branch is all about letting go of control, recognizing there is more to life than personal achievement. And instead of focusing on what can I get, you start asking, how am I connected to everything and everyone around me? So it's about cultivating qualities like humility, compassion, and a deeper sense of interconnectedness and oneness. But Loevinger and Tiller highlight this stage, both of them highlight the stage as a pivotal moment. It's when you begin to see beyond the ego's desires and you start exploring this wider sense of self. In Loevinger's model, this is where the ego becomes more conscientious, more aware of others. And in Tiller's, it's when consciousness begins to surrender and expand allowing for a broader understanding of our place in the universe. Have you ever felt the urge to let go of control, but something just keeps holding you back? It's a sign that you're at a critical juncture in your development. Loevinger's individualistic and autonomous stages are where things get nuanced. At this point, you're comfortable with complexity. You're authentic, you're independent, you're able to appreciate those gray areas of life. You've moved past black and white thinking, and you're starting to see yourself as part of a bigger, interconnected system. In Dr. Tiller's terms, you're deepening your experience of the surrender branch. You're no longer trying to control everything. There's this greater sense of allowing, of trusting the process. And you're developing qualities that enable you to act from this place of higher awareness. And this is where the ego finally starts to loosen its grip even more. Think of it a bit like surfing. The waves are still there, but instead of fighting against them, you're learning to ride them. So what happens when you reach that final 9th integrated stage in Loevinger's model? You've harmonized autonomy with empathy. You're operating from a place of wisdom. But here's the thing. This isn't the peak. It's the springboard. Dr. Tiller introduces the descending branch, where you become a conduit for higher consciousness. So imagine being so deeply connected to this universal energy that it just starts to flow through you, influencing not just your own life, but the people and all of those around you. It's about bringing the higher awareness down into your everyday and acting as a channel for something greater. Loevinger describes the integrated self as balanced, wise, and empathetic. Dr. Tiller takes it further. What if the self wasn't just balanced, but a vessel for transformative energy? This is where the ego's development culminates and a new level of conscious engagement begins. Have you ever felt like there's something greater trying to express itself through you? Well, this might just be the stage you're heading toward. One key difference between these two models is how they view progression. While Loevinger's levels suggest a more linear journey, although you can go back and forth, Dr. Tiller's branches can develop in parallel. In other words, you might be working on mastering a certain aspect of the ascending branch while you're also experiencing moments of surrender. So where does that leave you? Well, reflect on this for a moment. Are you still building your infrastructure? Or have you started to explore your deeper connections to the world around you? And if you're not sure, that's completely okay. The journey is ongoing. There's no rush. Loevinger gave us a map of how the ego develops, and Dr. Tiller shows us how consciousness evolves from there. And together they offer a comprehensive view of how we grow, not just as individuals, but as interconnected beings. And the journey isn't about erasing the ego. It's about integrating it and allowing it to serve a greater purpose. So, are you climbing the ladder of success? Are you letting go? Or have you begun channeling a greater flow of energy? Let us know in the comments below.